Welcome back to Sip and Talk. I'm Joe.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sunny. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome back to Sip and Talk.
Welcome. Welcome, Sip and Talkers.
So I was scrolling through some messages the other day, and a friend of ours in Taiwan asked me a question.
Oh, yeah.
And it was, could you please help us explain Taiwan's nationality law?
Wait a second. Hold on. Taiwan's nationality law.
Yep.
Sunny, we talk about geopolitics, AI, semiconductors, military affairs.
Yeah.
You know, the big stuff. But Taiwanese domestic law. Are you, trying to challenge fate during your 3 p.m. coffee break?
I wanted to say no. I really did. But then the listener told me, please explain it. Even we ourselves are confused by it.
Oh, wow.
And then, someone else added, you might understand it better than we do.
What do you mean might? It sounds like our Taiwanese listeners really trust us.
It seems so.
Fine. I mean, it's said that Taiwanese law often has, one name, one spirit, and yet another practice. So even if we understand it, that just means,
well,
it's messy, messy, messy.
So we've basically been forced into becoming the Taiwanese nationality law research team.
I guess so.
Well, since you all asked, we have no choice but to say, fine, we'll dig into this. Since the law can't seem to explain itself clearly, maybe we can help organize a clearer version.
Okay, today we are going to lay out some of the hot legal controversies in Taiwan.
And there are a few big ones we need to hit.
First up, the Nationality Act, Article 20. Why must public officials renounce foreign nationality, but for regular citizens, dual citizenship is totally fine?
Then there's the big one. Why the candidacy of so-called mainland spouses, or lupe, isn't strictly a Nationality Act issue at all.
Right, because legally they're defined as people of the mainland area, not foreigners. So the restrictions come from a totally different law, the Two Sides Relations Act.
And that leads to the really mind-bending part, why the requirement is cancellation of mainland household registration and not renunciation of Chinese nationality.
This gets into Taiwan's constitution, its legal mandate, and this strange legal architecture across the strait. It's a whole thing. A name conversion, as you called it. It's complex.
We also have to talk about what everyone is really afraid of. The concerns about sovereignty leakage, political infiltration, national security risks.
And finally, can the Anti-Infiltration Act actually stop any of this? I mean, theoretically, it's a firewall, but the biggest problem is that proving a case is incredibly difficult.
Wow, this feels like we're covering an entire semester of law school. Are we a podcast or a remote political and legal research center?
No problem. We will use the most relaxed, clearest, and least sleep-inducing way to bring all these controversies together for you.
All right, let's start today's discussion. A full breakdown of Taiwan's nationality household registration. We spent, 5 or 6 hours organizing and analyzing the data to answer your questions?
Let's do it.
So where do we start?
Let's start with the clearest rule we have. Article 20 of the Nationality Act. This is the law that everyone has to follow, whether they're marrying an American or a Japanese person or, anyone else.
Exactly. The core idea, the spirit of Article 20, is the principle of single loyalty for public officials.
Single loyalty to the Republic of China, or ROC.
Right. The rule is pretty simple on the surface. If an ROC national acquires a foreign nationality, they cannot serve in public office.
And what if they're already in office?
They have to be removed. It's mandatory.
So if you want to run for office or take a government job with these restrictions, what do you have to do?
You have to formally renounce your foreign nationality before you take the position. And then you have to complete the whole process, get the proof and everything within 1 year of taking that office.
Okay, so why? What's the rationale for this mandate?
It really boils down to 2 things. First, national security.
Makes sense.
You have to ensure that the people wielding public authority are exclusively loyal to the ROC. No divided loyalties.
And the second thing?
Conflict avoidance. You want to prevent any conflicts of interest or risks where an official might be subject to foreign laws.
Like the PRC's national security law, for example.
That's the perfect example. You can't have someone making decisions for Taiwan while also being legally obligated to, say, the government in Beijing.
And this all just reinforces the oath that public officials have to swear. The oath of allegiance to the ROC Constitution.
It echoes it perfectly. Now, who does this apply to?
You said public officials, but that's a pretty broad category.
It is. It applies to elected officials. So the president, legislators, mayors, all the way down to village and ward chiefs.
So even at the most local level.
Exactly. And it also applies to general civil servants.
But there's an exception, right?
There's an exception clause. Dual nationality is actually permitted for certain very specific professional positions.
Like what?
Think public university presidents, top-tier researchers, or highly specialized technical staff who aren't in management.
So if the talent is rare and you need someone with a very specific skill set?
Precisely. But there's a huge condition. The position cannot, under any circumstances, involve national secrets.
There's the catch.
Always a catch. So it really draws a clear line between general citizens and public servants.
So for a regular person, the Nationality Act is pretty flexible. It doesn't force you to renounce a dual nationality, especially if, say, your kids were born abroad.
Correct. They can hold it, at least for a while.
But the second you decide you want to become an official, that's the threshold. The requirement of single loyalty becomes mandatory no matter where you came from.
That's the line in the sand. And that framework applies to Americans, Japanese, Europeans, everyone. But now we get to where the complexity really begins.
The mainland spouses.
The Lupe. This is where the public gets so confused because the rules we just talked about, they don't apply to them in the same way.
Because in the eyes of ROC law, they are fundamentally different.
Fundamentally different. So under the law, people from mainland China, the Lupe, are not legally defined as foreigners.
Not Uyghur.
No, they have a completely different legal status. They're defined as people of the mainland area.
Dalu Dikirenmen.
And that definition comes from a totally separate law, the Act governing relations between the people of the Taiwan area and the mainland area, or, as it's more commonly known,
The Two Sides Relations Act.
Exactly. And this has huge consequences. The first one is what we call the Nationality Act bypass.
Because they're not foreigners,
Yeah.
they don't technically fall under those double nationality restrictions in Article 20 we just discussed.
Right. That article specifically targets foreign nationalities. So this whole category of people just sidesteps it.
So if that law doesn't apply, what does? How is loyalty or allegiance handled?
That's the second consequence. The restriction comes from that other law, the Two Sides Relations Act. And it doesn't talk about nationality. It sets a time limit based on household registration.
Right, the hoochie. So you have to have your household registration in Taiwan for a certain number of years before you can even think about running for office.
And the time limits are significant. For county or city level positions and below, so like a village chief, you must have had household registration for 10 years.
A full decade.
A full decade. But for central government offices, president, legislator, or even a county chief, that number jumps.
To 20 years, isn't it?
20 years. You have to have household registration for 20 years.
That is a massive commitment. So this really highlights the different legal processes. A foreign spouse from, say, Japan goes through naturalization, which is governed by the Nationality Act, and that process requires them to renounce their original nationality.
Correct. It's a clear path.
But a mainland spouse goes through what's called identity conversion under the Two Sides Relations Act, and their path is all about getting that household registration and then waiting out that 10 or 20-year clock.
That's the key difference. Two parallel legal universes for two different categories of people.
Okay, this is the part that is truly brain-melting. We have nationality, goji on one side, and household registration, huji, on the other. It really feels like the ROC government is just using a different name for the same thing, basically demanding they give up their ties to the PRC.
You've hit the nail on the head. It is a practical name conversion, and it's used as a political pragmatic strategy.
To get around what?
To navigate the One China constitutional framework, which, let's be honest, is widely acknowledged as outdated.
But it's still the legal foundation.
It's still the foundation, and that's where the constitutional conflict comes in.
Why can't they just be direct and say, renounce your Chinese nationality?
Because the ROC Constitution claims its jurisdiction extends to the mainland area. So to formally require a Lupe to renounce Chinese nationality would mean the ROC government is acknowledging that the People's Republic of China's nationality is a foreign entity.
Which would effectively be admitting Taiwan is independent and would challenge that whole constitutional one China fiction.
Exactly. And that's seen as an incredibly high-risk move. It could trigger a constitutional crisis and, potentially military escalation from the PRC.
So they're stuck. They have to find another way to do it.
They do. So what's the requirement in practice? Lupe must submit proof of loss of original residency.
Which means what exactly?
In practical terms, it means they have to cancel their household registration in mainland China, the Zutia de Luhuji.
And that's something the ROC government can actually enforce and verify.
Yes. But, crucially, the ROC does not demand proof of formally renouncing PRC nationality. They can't.
Because they don't officially recognize the PRC as a separate country to renounce nationality.
It's a legal paradox. Think about the Taibao card.
The Taiwan resident pass.
Right. When a Taiwanese person travels to mainland China, the PRC doesn't issue a visa.
Because that would acknowledge Taiwan as a separate country.
So instead, they issue this special pass, this Taibao card. It's a legal tool designed to manage travel without admitting there are two countries.
And this dual legal structure, it just shows that both sides are using these special documents and laws, the Two Sides Relations Act on one side, the Taibao card on the other, to achieve practical control.
Poking the constitutional bear.
Exactly. Okay, so we've established that Liu Pei can hold ROC household registration without formally renouncing PRC nationality. But this is the national security black hole, isn't it? What if they retain loyalty to the PRC?
That is the absolute core of the controversy. Holding PRC nationality subjects them to the PRC's laws, specifically the PRC National Security Law, Article 7.
And what does that law say?
It mandates that all Chinese citizens, including those abroad, which from Beijing's perspective includes Liu Pei in Taiwan, have an obligation to safeguard national unity and security.
And potentially provide intelligence.
Potentially, yes. So this creates an undeniable dual loyalty conflict for any Liu Pei serving in public office in Taiwan. It makes them potential targets for infiltration or political influence.
And this whole situation just exploded with that controversy back in 2025.
The political flashpoint, yes. The Blue Camp, the KMT, proposed amending the Nationality Act. Legislator Fu Kunqi was behind it.
What was the proposal?
It was to add a clause saying that mainland area people who legally acquire ROC household registration are governed solely by the Two Sides Relations Act and are not subject to Article 20.
So they wanted to make it explicit that the dual nationality restriction does not apply to them?
Exactly.
And what was their argument for this?
The Blue Camp argued that the mainland is not a foreign country according to the Constitution, so the rule shouldn't apply. They said it was about protecting Liu Pei rights and avoiding labeling.
But the Green Camp and other officials, they didn't see it that way.
Not at all. Officials like Interior Minister Liu Xifeng and Maxi Deputy Minister Liang Wenji were strongly opposed.
What was their take?
They argued that public officials must exhibit single loyalty, period. They saw the proposal as opening the back door to united front work.
kling's安后门, basically letting CCP influence slip into the government.
That was the fear. And this isn't just a hypothetical thing. There was that real-world example, the village chief case in Hualien.
Right, Ding Wana. She was actually removed from office.
She was. The county government removed her for failing to formally prove the loss of her PRC nationality, or rather for not fully complying with the spirit of single loyalty. It showed that even local offices are subject to this scrutiny.
So the concern isn't about democracy or rights, really. It's about sovereignty.
It's about the gradual erosion of sovereignty. The worry is that if a large number of Liu Pei and their families, who might be aligned with pro-China parties, start influencing local and then central decisions,
they could accelerate the PRC's goal of a soft annexation by eroding Taiwan's internal democratic resistance.
That's the long-term fear. So while the Nationality Act debate focuses on status, Taiwan does have another tool, a legal mechanism aimed directly at illegal behavior.
You're talking about the Anti-Infiltration Act, the AIA.
Passed in 2020. Its core purpose is to prevent external hostile forces, like the PRC government, party, or army, from penetrating and influencing Taiwan's democracy and national security.
And a key point here is that the AIA targets behavior, not someone's status. It doesn't matter if you're a Liu Pei or not.
Correct. It's about what you do, not who you are.
But for a conviction, there's a really high bar. The prosecutors have to pass the AIA test.
Yes. There are 3 elements they have to prove.
What's the first one?
First, the subject, or the Shuntou Leiwan. They have to prove that the source of the influence is an agency or individual instructed, commissioned, or funded by an external hostile force, i.e. the CCP.
Okay, that seems doable. The second part must be harder.
The second is the motive, the Shuntou Xingwei. The prosecution has to prove that the defendant acted under the instruction, commission, or funding of that infiltration source. A clear quid pro quo.
So you have to find the smoking gun, the email, the bank transfer with a memo.
You need a direct, traceable link. It's not enough to just be ideologically aligned.
And the third element?
The object, the weifix giwei. The behavior has to fall into one of 5 categories, and the big one for this discussion is engaging in election, recall, or referendum activities.
And if you're convicted for that,
The penalty is pretty steep, up to 5 years in prison and a fine of up to 10 million new Taiwan dollars.
but, and this is the big but, the enforcement challenge is proof. Proof, proof, proof.
This is the AIA's Achilles heel, and it's the biggest gap in Taiwan's defense system.
Because proving that clear quid pro quo relationship, the Xingxi Zuzu, is incredibly difficult.
It is. If a candidate just gets funding from some civilian organization that happens to be pro-China, but there's no direct traceable link to an instruction from the PRC government,
The case falls apart.
it's incredibly difficult to prove.
So let's wrap up this whole concept of name conversion with a practical, everyday example, something that shows the legal fiction versus the reality.
This is where politics meets e-commerce, and it's actually pretty revealing.
On big Chinese platforms like Taobao or JD.com, if you buy something that's shipped from Taiwan,
It gets categorized as an overseas purchase or global direct mail.
never domestic.
Never. The key thing is, Taiwanese products do not qualify for domestic free shipping that mainland sellers get.
So even though the political narrative is one China, the logistics and economic reality treats Taiwan as a cross-border entity.
Exactly. Goods have to clear customs, you pay international shipping rates. Economically, it's treated as a separate place.
But politically, they'll use a term like global buy or cross-border to avoid using the word foreign or international.
It's the same game. So whether it's legal identity, travel passes, or buying a pineapple cake online, both governments are in this careful dance of name conversion.
All to avoid admitting the practical reality of two separate jurisdictions while creating this messy legal gray zone for all the people caught in the middle.
And this deep dive into the Nationality Act and the Two Sides Relations Act really shows that Taiwan's legal system is incredibly complex. It's rooted in these historical and constitutional fictions that just don't match reality anymore.
So the debate over mainland spouses' right to run for office isn't really just about that. It's a fight over how to protect national security without taking a sledgehammer to the entire foundational legal framework.
Exactly.
What stands out to me is how this name conversion strategy using household registration instead of nationality is a political tool used by both sides to maintain the status quo while they push their own agendas.
It is.
It's a reminder that sometimes the most important legal details are hidden in plain sight, just under a different name.
And here's something to think about. If the RRC legal system were to formally admit that the PRC is a foreign country, thereby simplifying the whole nationality issue, what unforeseen international, legal, or military conflicts might that simplicity unleash? And is the current complex framework actually a necessary evil for maintaining peace?
Yeah.
And we want to be absolutely clear. Our discussion today has been an objective analysis of legal facts and political rationales. We are not criticizing or discriminating against any nation, group, or individual.
Not at all. We're simply providing the facts for critical thought, which is, the core mission of this show.
That's right.
We hope this explanation helps you understand why this issue is so difficult, even for people in Taiwan. Keep asking questions and keep thinking independently.
Thank you so much for joining us for this special discussion. Please remember to subscribe to Sip and Talk podcast wherever you get your shows.
And also check out our old friend Micky's YouTube channel, Micky to Life. He's got some fun memes and the latest travel vlogs.
We'll see you next time.
See ya.